Pau Gasol is hurt, and somebody says it's time for Dwight Howard to put on his big boy pants, and I've got that somebody on the phone right now. Welcome into the Sporting News Studios. I'm Tom Vandervoort. We're talking NBA as we do every Wednesday with our NBA writer Sean Devaney. And Sean, so what's the deal with the Lakers with Gasol out of the lineup? What's Dwight Howard got to do here?
Yeah, it seems like just any time that things start to go right for the Lakers, they've won 3 in a row on this road trip of theirs. Something goes wrong. And last night it was Pau Gasol hurting his foot, his plantar fascia, against the Nets at the end of that game. And he's going to be out at least a few days. If not, it could be weeks. And that really is going to shine a light on Dwight Howard, because Howard has this torn labrum in his shoulder, and there's a lot of rumblings out of the locker room that he's not that hurt and he should be able to play. Kobe Bryant pretty much came out and said that in public during his press conference after the game, basically saying, look, Dwight's never really had to play through pain. He's going to have to now. So that really puts a lot of pressure on Dwight Howard. They play in Boston on Thursday. If they don't have Dwight Howard in the starting 5, it's going to be Robert Sacre, and they don't want that. And it's going to be interesting to see whether he sucks it up and gets out there.
Yeah, I guess he's going to lose a couple miles an hour off his fastball at the very least. Now, 1 year ago, it was Linsanity in New York City. Of course, Jeremy Lin no longer in New York City. So how's he looking in Houston these days? Yeah,
it was February 6th was his first start as a New York Knick, and he had 28 points in 45 minutes against the Jazz and led a win, and all of a sudden you started to say, but it seems like a lifetime ago, when you think about all that's happened, with his injury, and then they had the losing streak, and D'Antoni getting fired, and Carmelo Anthony coming back, and of course him leaving the Knicks. Now, coming to Houston, he has not played nearly as well as he did in that stretch in New York. I don't think anybody necessarily expected him to average 25, 26 points a game, but, his shooting has been down. He hasn't really been the sort of forceful point guard that they thought they were getting, but he has played better lately, and that's got to be encouraging. He seems to be a little more comfortable playing with James Harden, and he seems to be getting his shot back a little bit. Had a great game on Tuesday, as did the entire Rockets team. They scored 140 points, but he was 10 for 16, 5 for 8 from the three-point line, and had 28 points and 9 assists. That's the kind of thing that the Rockets need to see from him, not on a nightly basis, but certainly more often than they've seen so far.
Gotcha. Now, looking ahead to the NBA draft, a lot of people are saying this is a bad draft. Well, is it a bad draft, or how bad is it, or are we looking at maybe some excuse-making here?
Yeah, I talked to a general manager the other day, and we were talking about the draft, and I said, everybody keeps saying it's a bad draft, and he gave me an earful, and I agree with him. And what he was basically saying is, if you call it a bad draft, it's because you're predicting that you're going to make a bad pick. That there's always good players available, even in so-called bad drafts. Even if there aren't great players at the top of the draft, there's always going to be somebody available. And so I think that this draft, because there isn't a clear number one player, a lot of people are calling it a bad draft. And really, if you go back, say, a couple of years ago, we had a bad draft. Well, maybe, but the Spurs were able to get Kawhi Leonard at number 15, Iman Shumpert at number 17, went to the Knicks. Kenneth Faried went to the Nuggets at 22. I think that a lot of times when you see or read, it's a bad draft, it's because teams aren't too sure who they want to pick, and they're afraid they're going to make a bad choice. So
is this really saying you're looking at more role players in a way? The talent maybe not as deep or not as well-rounded, but you can still find a defensive specialist, a great rebounder, that kind of thing? Yeah, you have to look for players who fit what you want to do. If you don't have a clear number one guy, that obviously puts pressure on the teams at the top of the draft to really take the guy who's going to be able to help them. So that makes it a little more difficult. But, to call it a bad draft is just sort of lazy. I see. So maybe not a bad draft, maybe just a little bit of a harder draft for these guys.
Yeah, you have to dig a little deeper. Exactly.
Excellent. All right, Sean, listen, man, thank you so much for your time. Love talking to you every week, and can't wait to do it again.
Thank you, Tom.